Welcome back to the Resupply with me, Guy Next Door.
Me, DK.
And me, Than.
Bringing you your weekly double tap of all things Space Marines and Laser Force. Howdy, folks. We're back on the mics. We have someone waiting in the wings to bring some lighter, positive stuff to the front. But before we get there, buy your plane tickets to Nationals, folks. We're coming up. We're coming up to July. It's
Not
almost
soon
here.
enough. Or maybe there is enough time. I don't know. We're still on the long training march. I feel like I still got a bit of work to do on that front.
Yeah, you and me both, mate. But I can confirm that the Aristotle Hotel has given us some cheaper than standard rates. I'll put a post up this week, but in case you miss it, they've given us a deal. So when you call them to make a booking or email them to make a booking, tell them that you're here to play the Laser Force tournament in July, and they will hook you up with some cheaper rates.
Hopefully they will retroactively apply that for me since I already reserved my room. But we'll see.
Yeah, hopefully.
In any case, this week we're gonna have on one of the great unsung heroes of our community, and far and away Rusty's favorite person in the world, since he texts him about 20 times a day. We're bringing in my man Russ, Maniac, the stats man himself.
What's up?
What's up, dude?
I'm just here to clear my name from the way I was slandered last week on this pod. Only I'm allowed to call myself a fat piece of garbage, not the rest of you.
We would never do that.
That's no fun.
Do you have a recording of this? Because I don't. Oh wait. Thanks for coming on. We appreciate you being here.
I love talking stats, guys, and we got new exciting stuff happening, so we can dive into it, however you guys want to talk about it.
Well, that is indeed what we're here to have you on. So tell us about some of the new fun features, either of the Laser Force software itself that makes stats easier, or revisions you made to the stats website recently.
I mean, that's the key thing you're talking about, right? Or all the updates that are coming out to the Laser Force system right now. So for those of you with Gen 8 sites, I'm sure you've noticed on the back of your phasers now, you're starting to get some more interesting details like the last person who shot you, which, cool to see on the phaser, whatever. But what that means is that in the background, they've now actually started tracking all that data, who's shooting who, and exactly when all these things are happening, when resupplies are happening, when missiles are happening, when bases are getting destroyed. And that actually has to go somewhere. And so the very nice side effect for that is that Chris Carton at Laser Force International made sure that as he was putting this together, he did it in a way where he could actually provide that back out to me, where now we can generate these files that have just every event that happens in a game and actually get that saved and really start to do a lot more interesting things with the stats. So a couple sites have already upgraded: Brisbane, Auckland, Darmstadt in Germany. Now we get international stuff going too.
Nice.
So you can go on the website, and it is fantastic. We had a lot of trouble with the international sites with the localization. The way we were trying to read PDFs before depended really heavily on words that were exactly the way they were spelled being in very specific places. So trying to go from a PDF that says commander on it to one that says commandant was it didn't work. So short of having Renzer build a whole new parser for every language we wanted to do, we were kind of stuck at that point.
I haven't heard the P word in so long. It's been a long time since I heard that word.
Steve loves the pasta. I mean parser.
I know that Demihawk, I guess like the brains behind this year's internationals, from a local perspective, he basically made his O face when it got updated at Auckland. So I know he was pretty stoked.
Yeah, well, the other sort of interesting piece is this isn't a file that just gets written out at the end of a game. It's actually written live as the game goes on. So there's all this opportunity now where we can sort of look at that and say, well, what kind of interesting software can we build that's going to watch this file as it gets written and stream a game live somewhere and have the ability to scroll back through a game as people are casting it or whatever.
Yeah.
and that sounds like a lot of fun to me.
Well, so he without giving too much away, because I know that he kind of wants to be the one to like explain in full detail what's going to happen, but he's put some stuff into play. I'd imagine that you've been speaking with him, Russ, about it, but from a spectator perspective, Nationals this year is going to offer so much in terms of what's going to be available live to the people watching. And it sounds pretty badass. Like, I kind of wish that, it was happening at a tournament I wasn't playing at.
This will complete the FOMO experience
Yeah.
for everybody who doesn't get to attend.
Exactly right.
Yeah, it opens up sort of just this whole new realm of interesting stats that we can do. So, you can go on the website now, you can look at Brisbane games or Auckland games, and if you click like the actions tab on any one of those games, you can see sort of just the very beginnings of some of the new stats we're putting together. So, for example, there's one that's a little chart that just shows, hey, what's the score over time for this game? And that's very simple, right? It just says, one team has got this many points at this particular second in the game versus the other team, and you can see where things start to diverge. But I want to put things on there like,
you can see
Go
where
ahead.
it all starts going pear-shaped.
well, exactly. And that's kind of what I want to put on there as well, too, because I want to put little nuke icons on there to show you when one team or the other nukes. I want to put little death icons so you can see where the medic dies.
Yeah.
Sort of interesting things like that. And then ultimately, the big long stretch goal here is building a full game replay engine. So you can sit and just click play on a game and watch it happen live and have, a representation of the scorecard that shows you, who's up, who's down, what are shots left, lives left, what's the game state at any given moment in time. Let you scroll backwards and forwards through it and really examine how a game has gone and see everything that's happened in that game.
It'd be really cool to do, again, from a spectator's perspective, have people go back through and analyze a game that maybe just played, and again, sort of bring that more immersive experience into Space Marines. For the tens of people that are actually interested in watching a stream.
Yeah, but I
It's
think the strategy implications of all that, though, for teams to be able to go back and look at that and say, okay, where did we mess up the last game, to actually have some hard data behind that instead of just, well, you weren't where you were supposed to be. Well, you weren't where you were supposed to be, or you missed these doubles here and there.
Why weren't you attacking?
Maybe it'll
Well,
help
I kinda
quantify
was.
that.
Yeah.
Well, and now we can see things like when people miss doubles, when one resupply hits somebody and the other one misses. Oops, missed your double, jerk. So that's absolutely the kind of stuff I want to pull out of this too, and I got to figure out exactly how to do that. But I want to have like new stats for resupply that say, for these two people playing resupply, here's the average time between when they tag somebody, right? So how in sync are they? Or here's the percentage of times one of them resupplied and the other one missed, where they're actually missing doubles.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, right. That's the kind of stuff we can think about and start adding in here. It's sort of the sky's the limit now that we have just as much data as we do in these games.
I'm really excited at the prospect of like retrospectively giving somebody shit for not giving me doubles. You guys are in a world of trouble.
Well, it's going to take some of the human element out of it too, right? Where we have those arguments after games about who did what, when, and what the situation was. And now you can go back and look and really, call your teammates out and get real angry.
Yeah, brah.
Exactly. I need to know who I should actually be yelling at instead of just everybody.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, and how long is it before we start getting ads for KFC on the back of the phasers?
Oh, man. That's a good question.
This double tap is being brought to you by Two Piece Quarterpack.
Look, man, those
that
guys at
might be
Laser
an
Force,
inside joke for me and Rusty, for people who didn't catch that one.
the people at Laser Force International, they're always looking for ways for site owners to juice revenue, man. They're looking out for them.
I mean, I'd happily wear like, $6 for 20 nuggets on my chest during a game.
It's a bit of a tangent, but I honestly can't believe they haven't started selling avatars yet. Like, where are those microtransactions, guys? Let's go.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Yeah, you're right. It's silly they haven't done that, but whatevs.
You've been shot by Rusty 50 times this game. Would you like to purchase 8 seconds of invulnerability?
Oh my god.
EA buys Laser Force.
Oh, it's filthy, but it's awesome. Buy yourself some in-game credits.
I might need you to go back and delete this section, Steve. I'm worried about the kind of capitalist hell I've just unleashed.
No, I love it. You spend an extra $1 when you start a game, right? You get 10 credits to spend in the game. You can buy a rapid fire, buy an invulnerability. Oh man, guys,
I can't wait to buy God mode. It's gonna be excellent.
just buy a nuke.
So what other? Oh yeah, buy nukes. Oh, I'm gonna drop 8 nukes a game because I'm rich, bitch. So
This is taking a turn.
Yeah.
We do not endorse this, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, this is definitely the darkest timeline that we're describing right now.
I'm gonna give like free nukes for anyone that subscribes to the Resupply. Smash that like button. You know who you are.
Yep, you've definitely put the EA back in Laser Force now.
So yeah, what else is going on the stats website?
So I'm also looking for ways to add new stats, right? So one of the ones I got in just today is an uptime stat. So again, based on these events, we can go through and look to see, hey, how much of the game were you actually online with your lights on doing something versus how much time did you spend down because you got resupplied or how much time did you spend down because you got shot by somebody? So I got to figure out a nicer way to display this. But for the moment, there's just these nice little pie charts on the game view page now where you can see in green, hey, here's the percentage of time you're online, and in yellow is your resupply time, and red is how much time you were just down. So you can look at some of these games and see, when people are getting absolutely wrecked because they're spending more than half of their game time in a down state. Or here, I'm looking at a game right now where I can see a heavy who was up and down but had no resupply time. So yeah, that heavy died fast.
Yeah.
Ouch.
That's really interesting. Yeah, I've got
to pay respects.
I've got I've got a game up here, and yeah, you're right. Like the team that lost, spent most of their time down.
It's not surprising, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes the stats are obvious.
Yeah, one of them is like it shows that the heavy was up for about 2/3 of the game, and yet like they got their ass whipped and came out, bottom score, no bases, low hit diff, low score. So that's really interesting.
So they were hanging around doing nothing for very long periods of the game.
Yeah. Interesting. That's really cool, man.
It's fun. So I mean, really, anytime we can think of anything like this where we can do, just all kinds of new stuff. I sort of have to just keep thinking of things.
Yeah, well, if you guys, 2 people that are listening to this podcast, have any ideas on what kind of stats you'd like to see, I'm looking at you, Rusty. Obviously, hit Russ up because he basically has nothing else to do with his time but do stat stuff, right?
Right.
At
Right.
all.
Exactly.
Well, coronavirus has really cut down on your overseas trips, so I'm sure you have more time to spend on stats now.
Yeah.
You'd think that it's not the case. I'm supposed to fly to Taiwan in 2 weeks. Great.
Don't forget your travel insurance and your mask. Your filter and.
Exactly.
No, let everybody else wear the mask.
Yeah.
You just be the one jerk with that and just be like, no, I'm cool, guys. Don't worry about it.
I thought about wearing one to tool because it's hard to know, is that guy just eccentric or is he worried about coronavirus? This is column A, column B.
Well, and we were talking before the show. Well, we might be getting some good deals on airline tickets coming up here if the economy continues to spiral into free fall. So
Yeah.
everybody else's fear and misery is our gain here on the Resupply.
Assuming you don't go broke and or get coronavirus.
Assuming those things.
Yeah.
Even if you do, we're mostly young and healthy. We should be fine.
Yeah, we'll be sweet. It'll be fine.
Just definitely make sure you get the travel insurance.
Yeah. Healthcare is reasonably cheap in New Zealand. It's not like going to America.
So I do got to say one more thing on the uptime. I forgot to mention. This was actually the first feature that someone else actually committed some code on to the repository, which was real fantastic. So Screever in Brisbane actually put together all the code that pulls that data out of here. So
Oh wow.
Nice.
yeah, it's kind of exciting for me to actually have a little bit of help.
Yeah.
So he's been looking for other things to hop on.
Good job by you, Screever.
Yeah, Screamer.
Um,
High five to you for making it so that Russ didn't have to do all the fucking code. In this case, the code might actually work long term. Who knows?
ooh, optimism.
Shots fired again. This time to your face.
Russ is gonna murder me the next time he sees me.
Let it not be said that we wouldn't also talk crap right to his face.
I can't wait to put ads on this just for you, Chris, so you can just face full of KFC ads every time you open stats.
Yeah, no, I'm fairly certain that I'm gonna get murdered by you the next time I see you. So it's fine. It's
No
fine.
worries.
I mean, speaking of which, you've bought your plane tickets or in,
Oh, I'm booked, baby. I'm booked.
Yeah, awesome.
He's in.
Same.
Have you got your accommodation sorted? You know, we got some good deals.
No, we're sorting that out right now. So I got the crew I'm going to stay with, and we're trying to figure out which Airbnb looks the most delicious.
Yeah, I did see. I sent through a link to a place out like a little bit in the country. It's about a half hour away from site, and it's pretty epic. So if you guys end up staying there, I might have to come out and pay you a visit.
Oh, there's some really nice looking ones. I want to stay in Devonport, man, where you are. That place
Bro,
was lovely.
So it is really nice, except it has the worst road in Auckland.
Oh, really?
Yeah. 'Cause we live on like the end of a peninsula, and there's one road in, one road out, and so like morning traffic
Yes.
is abysmal.
Wow. Okay then.
Steve, both Julie and I were looking at staying there with her family that's coming over.
Yeah.
And yeah, we kept looking at it's like, no, we know what that morning traffic is going to be like, and that is
Yeah.
just going to suck.
Yeah.
So no, we're not doing that.
Like it's gonna be so shit that I'm gonna go stay at the hotel for the week because I can't, you know, I don't commute early, so yeah, the idea of getting up super early to beat the traffic, just hard pass. It's a hard pass
Yeah,
from Gunnex.
I will say that like commuting to the Laser Force tournament in a morning is by far one of my least favorite things.
Yeah.
So as soon as you said,
For
"Oh yeah,
sure.
by the way, there's a hotel across the street," I said, "Yep, book it."
Yeah,
in."
there. Yeah, I'm gonna come crash on your floor for the week, man.
I don't care if they only have cold water. If I can walk to Lasers, it's all good.
Yeah, exactly right. There's a Burger King next door. That's breakfast sorted.
There you go.
Yeah, right on.
Is that Asian food court still there?
Oh yeah, of course it is.
Nice.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
down.
They do Korean fried chicken now too, so there is that.
Oh,
It's
sweet.
it's very very good.
And secondary to that, is the Nando's still just up the road?
I think it closed. I think Nando's closed.
Motherfuckers. Okay, well, I'll have to find my Nando's somewhere else then.
Yeah, not in
That makes me
Takapuna. That
sad.
one's gone too.
These motherfuckers. Okay, fine.
It's because Nando's.
Every time
sucks.
you guys say that, I'm just adding like another 5 kilometers to the treadmill, like mentally. In my mind. Like, okay, well, gotta do a little bit more prep now.
Nando's is amazing. Shut your fucking
It's
face.
bullshit. Yeah, get some KFC in you. That's all you want.
No, fuck that. Although, KFC in New Zealand is miles better than it is in the States. But
It's
that's
magical.
not saying much.
It's magical.
KFC, give us some fucking money. We've mentioned you like 8 different times in this episode. I don't know what the hell is going on. Let's get back to stats. Jesus.
Yeah. So, what else did you have on the site? Was there any other new features or any other new features being added to like the system stuff?
So there's not new features yet. There's a lot of background infrastructure I've been trying to build and put together to make sure that all these new event logs I can actually do something interesting with, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of new data that's getting stored, but I haven't done a lot of new stuff with it. That uptime feature was kind of the first really sort of brand new type of stat to add in there. So I'm really looking at what else is going to be interesting, what's going to be like fun to show. Certainly the replay engine once. That's a little further down the road, but that'll
Yeah.
be very cool once it actually does get done.
For sure.
But the other part too is the internationalization aspect is fantastic here, where I'm just no longer bound by trying to parse out weird characters in a PDF. So, once upon a time we had sites in Russia reach out and try to use the website and couldn't do it with PDFs. But now that we've got this file, I'm going to see if we can start getting them going. And then, I mentioned the Darmstadt site in Germany a minute ago, and they've actually already started a league on the website. So they've got
Awesome.
their current league is going on there right now, and they've been able to upload games and get all their stats going. So they're pretty excited about it. So I'm just excited in that sense to pull in a lot more people from around the world on this thing.
Right.
And if you go read the manual for this update, it actually mentions the website and my email address. So
That's awesome.
I'll be really curious if I hear from people that are just totally brand new that no one knows yet. So it'll be interesting.
So is the update available to sites that are older than the Gen 8 equipment?
Yes. So it's
Wow.
not. It was described to me that it's not an automatic update if you're not a Gen 8 site, but if you're Gen 7 or Gen 6 and you have their annual support plan, you can go pull the update. So any of the sites that we play at, they're all eligible to go get that update. Absolutely. Syracuse is updated, Auckland's updated, Brisbane's updated, Loveland is updated. Detroit, I think, really is the only one I'm not sure about 100% yet. So I'm sure they'll get that pushed out. And they're a Gen 7 site, so it wasn't an automatic, but they can go onto the website and pull it down and get that going.
Do you know? Do you happen to know if the second Auckland site is?
I have no idea.
Right. We might
I
have
don't think
to,
I. Do I know anybody who plays there?
We've got one guy who works there who comes and plays with us on a Tuesday. But they're a FEC, so I don't know if they're overly worried about it. I don't know if they've got Gen 8 though, so maybe it was auto pushed out. Maybe.
Well, sometimes the FECs they don't even have an I Play Laser Force link anyway, so it kind of doesn't matter anyway.
I think they do because if our games are logged that we've played there on I Play Laser Force, it should be right.
Yeah. And actually, that actually is kind of the other nice thing about the new stats is that the iPlay Laser Force IDs are now embedded into these events. So whatever you change your name to, wherever you log in, it's always going to get tied to your same stats on the website.
That's really cool.
That's sexy.
It makes my life tremendously easier. It absolutely does. And you can do things now. You can actually go and click on a player, and now there's a link to go view that player on iPlay Laser Force too. So you can go see their whole history if you want to. So kind of adding some linkages there
through LF Stats.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
go
dope.
Go click on your name.
I'm right here
see
now.
It.
Let's see. Old guy next door. Oh, view this player on iPlay.
I'd love to click on my name, but I don't have any games in like the last 6 months. So
not exactly easy to find your stats on there, mate.
Yeah, I'm very excited about all these international updates, and that's really great to hear. But this is just driving home the point of literally everybody has Laser Force except for us.
I mean,
this is
poor homeless Sacramento people.
Yeah, I'm just living my life vicariously through Rusty here. So,
I mean, that makes what you do even more special because you're unable to reap the benefits yourself, but you're happy to do the work so that others can enjoy.
I don't know that he's necessarily happy to do the work, but he's certainly doing it, which is awesome.
Yeah, look, guys,
go ahead, Russ.
I was going to say the only reason I do this is to have people tell me how great I am. Okay, let's be clear. There's no altruism here.
Validation is important.
Exactly.
In fairness, you don't hear it nearly enough. The community really does owe you a lot for all of this really cool stuff that's out there. I know I've spent hours looking at stat stuff and looking for things that I can try to fix about my game or to look at what other people are doing well, and it's awesome to have that.
It's certainly a kind of point of conversation after playing a night of Laser Force at our weekly members night.
Shut up.
Sort of stand around and kind of talk about stats and stuff. Like that stuff's really interesting because we stand around and talk shit anyway. Might as well talk about something that's relevant.
Well, and what's interesting now too, and kind of segueing from that is this whole fantasy thing now, which Dan, I mean, I'm 100% with you, man. I looked at that happen. I was going, Okay, is that interesting? Is that something people want?
Yeah.
Sure, Cody, go for it. I guess. But I mean, people had a ton of fun with it, and now
Yeah.
Trach in Brisbane is going all in on it and running his whole league there. So I certainly anticipate that we'll see some new features on the website to support the stat stuff or the fantasy stuff a little bit, just as they get rolling on some of that.
Yeah.
And I'm certainly looking forward to disappointing even more people who picked me up for at Nats this year.
Fool me once, buddy. Fool me once.
Well, yeah. I got picked exactly once for the ECT fantasy, and it was a block I didn't play in. So,
Yeah, sorry about that, man. Sorry. Look, and there's some. Again, I don't want to give too much away, but seeing as you said it, like, there's gonna be some tie-ins with like the commentary stuff. This year, tie-ins to the fantasy league that gets run. So,
awesome.
yeah, and I can't wait. We got to get Greg on here soon to talk about this shit because I'm gonna definitely spoil things.
See, this is like the double secret Illuminati. Fuck the tournament committee. This is where all the real kind of like backroom decisions are made.
Yeah, we've got triangles in triangles, yo. Yeah. Oh man, it's exciting. Like, it's. I think all of this stuff is going to do, and probably has already done, a lot to bring the full international scene together as one, assuming we can get past the rule set shit. But all of this stuff kind of helps. It's like a universal language, right? It's the same regardless of wherever you play. The stats are always the stats.
Numbers are numbers.
Yeah. So that's kind of the universal language.
Well, I mean, you say that, but we're also looking at changing some of the MVP values too to start making the numbers mean different things.
Yeah, well, numbers change. They do that. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the new OP medic features personally.
Yeah.
Medics are a little overtuned, I think, right now.
Well, you overcorrect sometimes, and then we'll recorrect. But I think at least some of the elements that you were talking about in the recent updates. So can you walk us through that real quick? What the change to the medic formulation was?
Yeah, I mean, there's actually been two recent updates. The first one was to do with scouts, where for ages and ages you've gotten half a point for pulling a rapid fire, which anyone who's ever tried to optimize
Dumb.
their scout MVP, it is dumb.
Dumb.
You can think about standing in your resupply and pulling a rapid fire and saying, okay, resupply me, and then pulling your next rapid fire just to get half an MVP point. So anytime there's behavior like that where you're playing the game in an unnatural way just to get MVP points, I think that MVP is failing.
Right.
So I argued with this a lot about with Peter for a while, and he still disagrees because he feels like every time you push the button, you should get points. But
Who does he work for? EA?
yeah, right. You push that button on the side, get points.
Yeah.
But ultimately we sat around, we looked at the math, we looked at how we could sort of retune the shooting 3 hits portion of it, and if you bump that up a little bit, take away the points for rapid fire, and everything there basically came out just about even. So especially on average, it was like a 0.002 difference on the average. Some of the high end dipped down a little bit more because there weren't as many rapid fires to pull, but those people are shooting tons of 3 hits anyway. So that was one where we felt like it made sense. It wasn't a huge impact, and it removes just kind of a weird behavior from the game that just doesn't make sense.
That's good.
Well, and in high level competition games, I would argue that you are still kind of rewarded for pulling your rapid fires because it is way easier to get that extra hit or those extra 2 hits on a free
Yeah.
hit if you're in rapid mode. So
Oh,
I think
yeah.
that's a reasonable compromise.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's part of the reason why like hit diff isn't directly represented in MVP right now, because score already does that, right? Hit diff and score, basically linearly equivalent. So,
Our like first interaction with MVP points, like way back when, it always seemed really off to me watching the Brisbane guys essentially waste rapid fires for the sake of getting MVP points, and that left like a bitter taste in the mouth for us. Like, we were like, well, it's not really, you're just trying to like game the system. Like, who cares about MVP? turns out we all care about MVP.
Yeah.
Yeah, that 10 chain rapid fire, so sexy though.
Yeah. Well, if you could do it, fucking rock that shit.
That's a great use of 80 seconds of time, by the way.
Yeah. I'm glad that the uptime graph wasn't back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So kind of moving on from that too, you start to look at MVP as sort of philosophically, what's it supposed to be? Is it supposed to be a number that just makes sense within the same position? Should it be a number that you can look at sort of across positions and tell how well someone's doing? Certainly at tournaments, we give out an award for what's the highest overall average MVP. But the way the formula works out, the way the games are played, that's going to be a commander or a heavy, basically every time.
Yeah.
So
I
what
think
we want to
except
think
for the
about,
very first year we did it because we had kind of overcompensated for scouts a little bit, and so Jared ran away with the award as a result of that.
but that should be possible though, right? And right now with the way
I
MVP's
agree.
built, doing it as a scout or especially as a resupply is basically impossible. And I look to the Nationals last year in Detroit and look at the way Ghosty played medic, and I mean that man played a flawless medic tournament. If you watched him play, he was all over the place. He was taking shots. He was getting his resupplies out, surviving games. I mean, it helps that his team was smashing people on the regular, right? And getting those elimination bonuses and everything like that. But he was playing a fantastic game. But you look at those overall MVP numbers, and he wasn't really close to the top at all.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the driving force behind the initial changes to some of the medic MVP scoring, where we took a look at it and said, well, let's make boost worth an extra point. Let's make the way the scoring works for those bonuses kind of doubled. So what should end up happening is that the average player gets a boost of about 1.5 points, and then at those really high-end medic games, it really starts to accelerate. I think there's a couple 49-point medic games in the database now with the changes.
Wow.
Oof.
Well, and again, boosts and score are kind of linearly related again, right? If you
Right.
score more, you're going to get more boosts. So those things kind of feed back into each other. So
True.
So, in that same vein, because I would imagine that those medics had probably quite high scores.
yeah,
And so, in the context of a game, if that medic went out and went, sort of battle medic and scored $8,000, but their team died out and they lost, does that kind of reflect? Because you're hardly the most valuable player if you're detrimental to your team's success.
sure. And you're still not going to get like the big elimination bonuses, because that's still a big part of
Right.
it too, right? Is getting those big elimination bonuses when you eliminate teams faster.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, if you're not going to get to score 8K as a medic if your team's also dead. It's just
Yeah.
not going to happen.
Something went horribly wrong.
Yeah. So I do think it's probably a little overtuned right now, just because score and life boosts are, again, they're linearly related. They're kind of measuring the same thing almost.
Yeah.
So I think one or the other needs to kind of be adjusted down a little bit. But we're going to see how the season in
Needs to
Brisbane
calm
goes.
the fuck down.
Yeah, we'll take a look
I'd
at how
say
the
anything
season
to get
business
Rusty
goes.
to play more medic games is well worth it. So I'd say just go ahead and hammer medic over the top, no problem.
So I
If you ever
anticipate
wanna
we'll
win
be
MVP
looking at
again,
that.
Rusty, you have to play medic. Sorry.
Yeah, right. So I anticipate as we're looking at this, we'll look at kind of other ways to kind of tune these things up and down a little bit, to try and hopefully by the time we get to Nats and Auckland, maybe have a few more adjustments that are able to, so a scout can get to the mix, or if there's a really strong ammo or medic out there, they can kind of get into the mix on that MVP. I'm sure it'll still be a commander or heavy that pulls that trophy, but it'd be cool at least to get things a little bit closer.
Yeah.
And I've always kind of felt that really in comparing MVP, you need to compare position versus position. So I kind of look at the all-star team or the MVP team, whatever you want to call it, as kind of a better measure than just overall MVP. Personally, I can't speak to everybody, but it is kind of cool, and it definitely would be really cool if we had a kind of closer sync in between positions, so we could make it something that purely measures the best player. But
Yeah.
I think you're still kind of right that it's likely to be a heavier commander just because, well, in general, that's what the best players tend to play. So we're also kind of arguing around different things here. It's not like, in some other sports where, well, the positions are all valuable in their own right, and a player's overall skill might be determined by one of many different factors.
I mean, your commander is essentially your quarterback, right?
Tends to be.
Yeah. Um, yeah, right on. So, was there anything else?
I'm just going to close the loop on MVP a little bit too, because there's also new opportunities in the data we have to maybe sort of reapproach how we handle MVP in the first place. For those of you who follow the NBA, they've got a stat called PER, which is a player efficiency rating.
Yeah.
And the way that's put together is every season it's balanced so that, or normalized, I should say, so the average per is always 15, sort of no matter what position you're at, no matter who you are, that's the average per. And it was never, I've looked at the formulas behind it. It was never something we could implement because it depends so heavily on measuring things like pace of game, some of these timing elements. But now we actually sort of have that. So that's one of the things I want to kind of take a look at and see if I can learn some more math here to, maybe make an MVP-like stat or, an efficiency-like stat that really looks at all these events that are happening in game, look at your uptime, look at what you're doing with that time that you're on, and try and figure out, is there even a more interesting sort of catch-all stat we could make here that's even more valuable than the way MVP is structured right now.
It's that does a lot for taking the nuances into the game, right? It's almost like a way to measure the nuances or the smartness of how you play Space Marines.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Well, one thing kind of related on that topic and looking at things like NBA stats is they also have things like per 36-minute splits, which
Yes.
is a length of time that players are more likely to play rather than an entire length of a game, or at least that is sort of a better metric. So, I mean, we could look at something like that now that we have those kinds of time frames available to do like a per 10-minute or per 12-minute type of scoring metric or something like that to try to normalize for, okay, well, the game didn't go to time because of an elimination, but we can still kind of normalize for MVP. I know the elimination bonuses are kind of meant to do that, but those would at least be other things I guess we could look at, yeah?
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, I love the idea of a per 10-minute stat. That's been banging around in my head for a while. And the elimination bonus actually is another topic that Rusty and Peter have been arguing about for the last couple weeks or so about what that
Forever.
should really be.
I thought you were going to say 10 years.
Well, there's a chat window I have open that is a horror show.
Don't we all?
But I think elimination bonus might be a little bit undertuned right now if we compare it to what it was before we got game times on scorecards. Because that was one of the changes made just before Brisbane Nats was that we finally started getting length of game on the scorecard, so we at least knew how long the game went. So we started saying, well, instead of a flat 2-point bonus for an elim, you're going to get 1 point, and then for every second more than a minute that was left on the clock, you're going to get a 60th of a point. So for each full minute, you got another point, basically.
Right.
So to get back to that 2-minute bonus, you had to have 2 minutes left on the, or 2-point bonus, you had to have 2 minutes left on the clock when you elim somebody, which sort of looking at what the average elim times are, times left, that doesn't actually happen that often. So the average elim bonus is only like 1.4 right now, which I think is low, honestly. So
Yeah.
I think it does make sense that sort of flat elim bonus needs to come up a little bit. Peter thinks it should be 5, which
5 for an elim.
excessive.
Yeah, I've
5
always
plus the
thought
time
5
bonus.
was a bit high. I
Yeah.
would agree that maybe we overcorrected a little bit, but 5 just seemed
Well,
just too much to me.
I guess it was 5 at one point way back in the past, and Peter's still really angry it was ever changed from that, because in his mind it was a direct attack on Brisbane that it was changed. Which
Well,
maybe it was. I wasn't
they
around for it.
were running away with like every single MVP award, I think. So.
So that's one where and really in the short term, I want to kind of have a bit of a change too. And I think at least upping that bonus to like a flat 2 or 3 points is probably in the cards, kind of at a minimum, because I think it is too low right now.
Right.
Yeah, well, if it's gone down from 2 to 1.4, I guess we could look at bringing it up to, instead of one flat plus a 60th of a point for everything over a minute, just do like one for the elim and then just an automatic one, or I guess two for the elim and then do everything else with the time remaining.
Yeah.
So that way
Yeah, I think,
it's automatically like an extra point from what it is now.
yeah, and part of the struggle I have is I haven't written good software to test new versions of MVP right now. So
You're so
it's
lazy.
dude. I know. So right now, if I want to actually change something to MVP and then like actually get a view of what that is, I have to write the change, copy the database, and then run a script to update 9,000 games, and that takes like 40 minutes. So it's not easy to do quick tests right now.
Yeah, that seems like perhaps spending some time on a UAT environment might benefit you. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah, just a smidge. I'm not gonna lie. Coding by the seat of my pants.
Do you want me to write a user story for you for that, Russ, so you can
Yes.
prioritize it into your
Yes,
backlog?
I do. I want that. I want the Trello board. Let's go.
Okay, Kanban board with all the stories for that feature and Epic, and yeah, we can make it happen.
So
I can't wait.
Hack the planet.
We just lost most of our audience because if you're like me, you now have a blank expression on your face.
We know that was.
Bro,
that
I'm
was,
just here so I don't
you
get
know,
fined.
Right on. So, is there anything else?
I think that's kind of all the stuff that's been banging around in my head. I can't wait to see what Demi Hawk's got up his sleeve. Let him know if he needs any help from my end.
Oh, I'm sure he'll hit you up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some really exciting things, and I hope that we're able to kind of pull them off. One thing, actually, we might as well use the podcast as a platform. We do need some help from somebody in terms of making it aesthetically nice to look at.
Ooh.
So
Have you seen the stat site? I am not your guy.
yeah, if anyone out there wants to have a crack at making a nice to look at stream display for nationals this year, could you reach out, get in touch with either me or Greg, aka Demihawk from our site?
that site being Auckland for those of you,
Yeah.
not keeping track at home, since it was never actually, explicitly stated this time around.
Auckland, New Zealand,
Come
July
on,
20th through
Steve-O.
24th, 2020.
There we go.
That old
you have
chestnut.
you have to explicitly reset up the bit every single time. Believe it or not.
But yeah, no, seriously, if somebody wants to have a crack at designing that for us, that would be most appreciated. I would bother Marco, but I think he's got quite a bit on his plate at the moment. I keep periodically giving him a nudge about maybe if he could have a look at doing another logo for Nats this year, because the last few that he's done have been outstanding. I don't really even want to attempt to tackle that. So, yeah.
His style is our look and feel now, man. We got to keep him rolling on it.
Yeah, no, he's like got
Yeah, we need some continuity.
too much paid work apparently.
Ugh,
Yeah.
what's that
maybe.
like?
Yeah.
You guys get paid for work? Holy shit.
But yeah, that would be awesome if somebody wants to have a crack at that. But yes, thank you, Russ, for coming on and clearing your good name.
It's an absolute pleasure.
We love you, Russ.
Yeah, we always love having a good yarn with you, man. So and again, on behalf of everyone in the scene, thank you for the work that you do around the stats website. Like, it's much appreciated.
Keep stroking my ego. It'll stay where it is.
Perfect. I'm gonna send you a weekly text stroking
Beautiful.
that ego.
We pester
you know
because
what I
we
mean?
love.
All right. Well, look, for this week, I've been Guy Next Door.
I've been DK.
And I've been Van.
Always remember to backtrack, kids. We will see you next week.